civil resistance through the formation of the Popular Assembly of the Pueblos of Oaxaca. The institution of the Popular Assembly has deep roots in our history and is basic to political representation in our communities. The Assembly is the main space for collective decision-making in the rural indigenous communities of Oaxaca. This form of political organization has been extended to the poor communities in colonias in Oaxaca City, where both indigenous and non-indigenous people alike suffer injustice and oppression. The indigenous institution of the Assembly has been the building block of the APO, the organization that has made peaceful political mobilization possible in Oaxaca. APO fights for a new social pact in Oaxaca in order to construct an inclusive society in which the rights of both the indigenous and non-indigenous people of Oaxaca will be respected. APO also demands government of the people by the people. This social transformation cannot begin until Ulysses Ruiz Ortiz submits his resignation as governor of Oaxaca.
When the PFP, when the Mexican police went to the university with the intention perhaps of killing the supporters of APO, what they did was that they got on the radio. I hate this thing. What they did was they got on the radio and they said, come to the university, and thousands of people poured into the university to support APO. And that's what stopped the police repression in late October. So there's kind of two levels of resistance going on in the Mexican left right now, or in Mexico right now. One of them is at the electoral level, and as I'm sure we all heard over the summer, the Mexican election was contested. The argument was made that Felipe Calderon stole the election, a moment that felt deeply familiar to many of us here in the United States. But what didn't feel familiar is what happened afterward, which is that 1 million people took to the streets in Mexico City. And I actually I happened to be in Mexico at that time, and it was just marvelously thrilling to see what happens when people actually decide to fight for democracy, and to insist that if you're not going to count my vote, then you're going to deal with me being out in the streets. And it was a tremendously exciting time, and it was fun. The supporters of AMLO, of Andrés Manuel López Obrador, have had a tremendous sense of humor about the whole thing, and AMLO is always in cartoons and cartoon figures sometimes. And I want to just give you a sense of this. No a pinche fraud, which for those of you who don't know, I would translate as no to the fucking fraud. And I sort of thought it'd be fun to bring it home and over the no a pan, put a little, Bush sticker. Because there was such this fun sense that, not fun, but really passionate sense that democracy meant that every vote counts. In addition to that level of resistance, there's also been much more grassroots level resistance. And the Mexican left has, with good reason, deep suspicion, too, of the electoral process and what it means to elect a leftist leader. And so throughout the year running up to the election, July 2nd, the Zapatistas were running La Otra Campaña, which has a double meaning of sort of the other electoral campaign, but also the other campaign of minimize street crime. And one of the things he did was sort of target these ambulantes. And so this was the struggle in Asamble, is to get the flower vendors away, and they're negotiating with the police about permits and so forth. And the day before May 3rd, there was still no agreement, but there was a sense that there was an agreement that the police weren't going to repress them. And of course, what happened was the opposite, that the police, the PFP came in and turned over flower vendor stalls and engaged in these tactics of rape and repression and so forth. On October 20th, there was a tremendously interesting and important demonstration, I think, in Atenco, where representatives from APO in Oaxaca, from the Zapatistas, the EZLN, and the FPDT, which is the People's Front in Defense of Land, which was the organization that supported the flower vendors in Atenco, all came together for one demonstration in Atenco. And on the one hand, this doesn't seem that surprising, like, wow, you have these interesting popular organizations from disparate parts of Mexico, but they've been engaged in similar struggles about land and about local issues. But on the other hand, it's actually remarkable because the issues have been so local. And I want to read something from something that Lynn Stephen wrote about sort of characterized local mayor, use the station to air their opinions. Regular topics have included the femicides in Ciudad Juarez and Oaxaca, celebrations of local musical groups, and discussions of indigenous rights conducted in more than half a dozen of Oaxaca's 16 indigenous languages. So when you picture these tremendously disparate and local struggles engaging in in multiple languages, the coming together of these grassroots movements from different parts of Mexico, I think, is actually quite a significant event. These have also been struggles about globalization, as the young anthropologist that Wendy was reading was talking about, questions of dispossession of indigenous people from the land, to create tourist areas in Oaxaca, to access natural resources in Chiapas, and I think Stacey's going to talk more about this, so I won't. But I want to say also, one of the most interesting things about both Atenco, where the repression was against women flower vendors, and in Oaxaca, this has been a women's movement significantly, and it's been significantly a feminist movement. The women have been organizing separately and autonomously and voicing demands as women. APO, not surprisingly, as a teachers' union, is significantly composed of women. And this movement has had a strong thread of feminism running through it. I want to read a couple of things, or read one thing. Fidelia Vasquez, who is a participant in the protests in Oaxaca, describes her participation in this way. She says, I'm a woman born in Oaxaca, Zapotec, and we expect blood. Our mission as women is to create, educate, communicate, and participate. That's why we're here occupying the state radio and TV station. We're like a lot of the humble, sincere working people of my state. From the countryside to the city, we Oaxacan women are tired of bearing this burden alone of the repression we are experiencing from a long line of people who have governed us and from our current governor, Ulises Ruiz. Although the people who may read this are far away, we are living this crude reality of repressions in an impossible situation. We went out into the streets on the 1st of August to tell Ulises Ruiz that he had to leave Oaxaca. We are women who don't usually have a voice because we are brown, we are short, we are fat, and they don't think we represent the people, but we do. We are the face of Oaxaca. It is a shame that the government doesn't recognize the greatness, the heart, and the valor of the women who are here. We're here because we want a free Mexico, a democratic Mexico. They made a demand that's now being debated that as a significant number of women must be delegates to in the new Constituent Assembly. And so the debate now is whether the demand is for 30% women or 50% women. So it's a very moving and exciting movement. And I think that we have a lot to learn from it in the ways that it layers together very local struggles with struggles at the level of globalization and at the level of the international economy with women's struggles. And I'm tremendously moved by it and excited. And I'm excited that it's caught fire, not just here, not just there, but here. And that this has become part of a worldwide movement against neoliberal globalization and for democracy. Thanks.